Welcome back, family, to the Victory Formation Podcast. It is your host, Donnie Roberts, along with co-host Eric Anderson. How you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, today we wanted to bring you guys the schedule release. Today we're going to cover the AFC East. Do this by division by division. Let's get on with this thing, man. Um, we decided we wanted to do also schedule predictions. So we'll have that also in this video. But without further ado, Buffalo Bills. Let's go ahead and start, man. My outlook going into the season with Buffalo is they're clearly the AFC East favorites as of right now. However, the Patriots is a team to watch out for in the division. If they can kind of get it all together, Drake May puts a solid second season in. Also the Jets, I think the Jets have been working on their offensive line. I think that they have a pretty solid offensive line. I think their defense is good. It's really going to depend on their quarterback play with Justin Fields. Who's the last team I'm missing? The Dolphins. I don't see the Dolphins winning division.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone believes in the Dolphins. But looking at this Buffalo Bills schedule, it does start off a little rocky. I mean, obviously, like you said about quarterback play with the Jets, but you start with Baltimore, obviously, but it's at your house, so you kind of have an advantage. But I mean, you're dealing with
Derrick Henry.
Lamar and Derrick Henry. Which he just got a new contract deal,
Good. He
which
did.
is really good.
This is random, but did
Um,
you hear that he spends 240, I think it was 240,000 a year on his body?
Jeez,
That's crazy. That's a great investment, but that's crazy.
yeah, that is crazy. But that shows you how dedicated he is to the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like after Baltimore, up until New England, they're very winnable, especially the New Orleans game.
Mm.
Um, I think Atlanta will be tricky. It depends on how Michael Penix looks. It's so weird that there was a lot of people um in the draft, talking about, they might need to draft a quarterback, which doesn't make any sense because even the exact same thing with, the Vikings. Like, why would you try to draft another quarterback and you didn't even see the finished product of the person that you drafted? So that will be an interesting game because I think if Atlanta wins that Bills game, I think they really look at Michael Penix and being like, okay, we really got to invest into building around Michael because him going, toe to toe with Josh Allen, which is, a top five quarterback in the National Football League right now, would say a lot.
Former
Then
reigning,
obviously you have Carolina.
reigning MVP, you
Oh
know?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, Carolina, obviously, I think they win that game. Um, it's gonna be interesting with that Kansas City game
Mhm.
because I think two things could be true. I think Josh Allen could win this game. Um, but in totality, I think they need to win that game.
Right.
And here's why. I think for the Buffalo Bills, their biggest obstacle is Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. If they
Mhm.
win a regular season game against them after their bye week, I think that gives them the into the mind state of like, if we can beat you during the regular season, we can beat you in the postseason.
Right.
Now, obviously, I don't know how their defensive line is going to look against Kansas City's offensive line, which, I mean, let's be completely honest, it's not all that. Even though they drafted what's the name out of NS
Simmons.
North Dakota State. Yeah.
Simmons out of Ohio State.
Oh yeah, I keep on forgetting because I'm thinking of the mock draft.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Who pops that?
Well, that is also, yeah, that's also a very big factor for them. They drafted Josh Simmons.
If he
Now
could stay
that's going to
healthy.
be a, yeah. So I think that's one question, and the other question, like I stated before, would a win against that team, would that catapult them to win against them in the postseason? Because they're probably going to see them in the postseason. If it's not them, it's probably going to be Baltimore. It's going to be one of them two.
Mm.
As
Well,
much
I
as
mean,
I love my Patriots, I think we're maybe a season off
okay.
from battling for that AFC championship game.
Well, we can argue that because I definitely want to argue that point when we get to New England because I don't necessarily think either one is true. However, I'm more so saying that for the whole AFC championship part of that. But like I said, we'll talk about that when we get to New England. But I mean, I agree with you. Especially with the Kansas City statement that you made that if they're able to beat them in the regular season, it kind of gives them that boost of confidence that they need, that they're able to say, you know what, like we're able to beat these guys, earlier in the year. If they play each other in the playoffs, we were able to beat these guys earlier in the year and we can do it, you know? And that has been their Achilles heel is the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and his magic. Well, I agree. For the most part, especially at the beginning of their schedule, I think it's a little easier than their back half of the schedule. Baltimore
Yeah,
is going to be a tough game. I think that they'll have a solid run defense, but is it good enough to stop Derrick Henry and Lamar? I don't know. Right? We'll have to see it. The Jets, I think the Jets aren't yet ready to contend. I think they're kind of in the same spot as the Patriots, and we'll talk about the Jets later too. I think they're kind of in the same spot as the Patriots, where they're such a young and upcoming team, but they're not established yet, right? They could fully establish themselves this year. Miami, they always start off hot, but when it gets cold, they fold.
yeah,
Um, New Orleans, I think you're right about that too. I think that they should be able to beat New Orleans. New Orleans doesn't have a quarterback. Not huge on Tyler Shuck, not huge on Spencer Rattler, and Turner. I think is the third quarterback. I'm definitely not huge on him. Patriots. I think I think the Patriots actually give the Bills the most run for their money. And I'm not just talking about like in this game, but just in general. I think you guys have, I don't know, like what do you want to call it? Kryptonite? I mean, you guys don't always beat them, but you guys always give them a run for their money. You know what I mean? Even if
yeah.
you guys are terrible and they're really good.
Like the Mac Jones.
Yeah, like the
Mac
Mac Jones era, the Cam
Mac
Newton
Jones
era.
literally threw I think less than what, 5 attempts in the what was
Playoff
that,
game.
in that playoff game. It was,
Yeah,
I think, less than like 15.
yeah,
Yeah, like less than 15 attempts, and they still won.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know, something about the Patriots that they're just some certain teams, they're kryptonite. And then you got
But
the Falcons, which, you might be a little bit higher on the Falcons than I am. And we'll get to the Falcons on another day. But it just, I don't personally see the Falcons being anything all that. Now they do play in the NFC South. So maybe that helps them. But I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, right? Because you beat on bad teams, does that make you a good team? I mean, if you're a good team, you're supposed to beat on the bad teams, but
Yeah.
what happens when they play a team like Buffalo? Now you're 100% right. If Michael Penix can come out there and beat Josh Allen, we're talking about a team that will possibly, make the playoffs.
Oh yeah. Then that really
Carolina,
shakes up stuff.
yeah, it absolutely does. Carolina, I mean, they shouldn't have any problems against Carolina. Kansas City, like I said earlier, you're 100% right on the money with that. Miami, they fold. Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay's a good
That's
squad.
yeah.
That's a good squad. I could see Tampa Bay giving Buffalo the run for their money. I mean, I'm looking at the
I,
schedule, and I just don't see any game other than the Baltimore game where you're just looking at it and you're saying, I think this team's going to beat Buffalo.
you could say Cleveland,
No.
depending on who the quarterback is.
What
I mean,
quarterback out of the five
who's
quarterbacks, what quarterback do you think can go to Buffalo and beat them?
oh
Not go to
I
Buffalo,
forgot
but
they
play Buffalo and beat
no they're
Buffalo.
at Cleveland.
They're at Cleveland. Okay, so out of the five quarterbacks, right? Obviously, okay, out of the four quarterbacks, because Deshaun Watson's hurt, what quarterback does Cleveland have that you can confidently say they're going to beat Buffalo?
I think I think Shador is the best quarterback in the room. Now I'm not saying that he's better than Josh Allen, but here's the thing that we're not even a name that we didn't even bring up yet. What about Miles Garrett with Mason Graham? Who's stopping those two
Buffalo has a good offensive line,
on that offensive line? Who's stopping them?
bro. Buffalo got this is
I'm
a
not
name that
saying
a
I'm
lot of
not
people
saying
probably don't know, but they got Osiris Torrance in the draft, not this draft that just happened, but the draft before 2024 draft.
mm,
This dude Osiris Torrance from
mm,
Florida, it was like 364
mm.
pounds and can move.
Oh yeah,
You know what I
oh
mean?
yeah,
And so you
absolutely.
obviously like you look at Miles Garrett and you're saying, okay, like he's one of one. You know what I mean? No one's like Miles Garrett. He's a top two edge rusher. And I'm only saying top two because I'm a Steelers fan, right? So I'll never put Miles Garrett
Mm,
above TJ Watt. But
mm,
Miles Garrett is a top two edge rusher, and Buffalo doesn't have the tackles to stop Miles Garrett. But I still, even with Miles Garrett, one, I'm not high on Cleveland this year. I think
mm,
Cleveland's good for about 5 wins this year. And I'm not even
mm,
trying to be like funny or anything like that. I genuinely think they're about good for 5 wins this year. They're just not a
mm,
good team in my opinion. But
mm.
I don't think Miles Garrett alone is good enough to beat Buffalo. And I don't think Shador, even though they're super high on Shador and I've been hearing great things about Shador, I just don't think Shador is ready to compete on that kind of level yet. Right?
And I understand that, but here's the thing that I think we're not considering here is that my Miles Garrett requires so much attention, like a Aaron Donald in his prime, that you're literally probably going to allocate 2 to 3
You have to.
linemen just for Miles Garrett. Now Mason and all the other D linemen, I don't know their names because I'm not investing into the Cleveland. Um, they're basically gonna have one on ones. Now Miles or Mason doesn't have the best measurables, but looking at strictly play, Mason Graham is gonna be toe to toe with one of those guys in the interior that he might not have all the measurables, but some way somehow he's gonna disrupt and he's going to be a game changer. I think he's going to be more of a disruptor where not necessarily the stats pop off the screen, but if
Mhm.
you insert him into a defensive line, he's a key contributor. Um, with the whole Shador angle, I think Shador gives them the best chance. Because I think he has the best arm within that five quarterback group. and I think he's the most one that will be ready for the moment. And he's probably the only one besides Joe that's really played in actual like cold weather. I mean, you could say Dylan, but I
All
don't
of them.
think.
All of them. What? All of
Who's
them.
the other one?
Kenny Pickett.
Oh yeah, I keep on forgetting about Kenny. But Kenny
Yeah,
can't throw.
he
Kenny
can't
can't throw.
throw. He can't throw, and the only thing Kenny's good for is being clutch in the fourth quarter. That's the only thing he's good for. So if a game is a 2-3 point game, and then Kenny's leading your team in the fourth quarter, then sure, you know what I mean. I could see Kenny coming back and winning that game.
But I think
But
out of all five, I think Shador is the most reliable and probably the most trustworthy out of the five at all of their stages in their careers.
okay,
I think Joe Flacco's way beyond his prime. Kenny Pickett, as he hasn't shown anything to say like he's worthy of having that role for long. Dylan Gabriel has been in college football for 5 years. I mean, you can say the exact same thing with Shador. He's been in there for four.
yeah, I mean, looking at the schedule, Eric, I mean, I don't see a lot of losses. I think they lose to you guys once. I think they lose to Baltimore in the opener. And then I think they lose to Philadelphia, and I think they have a surprise loss. So I put their wins at 13-4.
I'm gonna say 12-5. I feel like, yeah, I feel like there's gonna be two that they're supposed to win, but for some reason, some way, somehow they lose.
Okay. Well, fair enough. We'll move on to the next team, which is going to be the Miami Dolphins. All right, so looking at the Dolphins, looks like they have a little bit of an easier schedule, although not too easy. I mean, I'm kind of looking at this. It actually kind of seems tough. I don't know
Yeah.
why it's so easier. I mean, you start off with Indianapolis.
Oh yeah, they're about to get cooked.
Yeah, man. I just don't think the Dolphins are. They just been on a downhill spiral, man. I mean, what's gonna happen with Tyreek Hill? Is he gonna
I'm
still
calling it
throw?
right now. This is my record prediction.
Okay.
One, two, three. I say 5 wins.
Yeah.
I say five.
Man, I would hate to disagree with you. Or I mean, I hate to agree with you, but maybe not five on my end. But I think if you're a Dolphins fan, I genuinely think that this year is going to be a huge disappointment for you guys. I think that actually Tyreek Hill is going to end up getting traded by the deadline, or at least he's going to be in a lot of trade rumors by the deadline. If it doesn't happen, it's going to come close to happening. I just don't really see it with them this year, man. They're not the same team.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I really, bro, I see 5 or 6 wins with this team, you know? And I think that's just because of how talented they are, you know? I mean, that sounds dumb, right? You're so talented that you're able to win 5 or 6 games. But I
Yeah.
look at the schedule, man. I mean, they're not going to beat Buffalo. They may beat them in the first game, right? Maybe that's one of the surprise losses that Buffalo has, but I doubt it.
They're
You're
not
gonna
they're
be
not being Cincinnati later in the season, I'll tell you
they're
that
not
much.
they're not beating Cincinnati later in the season. They're not beating New England later in the season. They're not going to beat Pittsburgh later in the season. They're not beating New York later in the season. So every away game in December on, they're losing because they can't win in the cold weather, right?
Bro, they're not being the Chargers either.
They're not beating the Chargers, right? They're not beating Baltimore. They're not beating Buffalo a second time. They're probably not beating Washington. You know what I mean? Like their wins are going to come early to mid-season, right? So maybe the Colts, for sure the Panthers, right? Maybe Atlanta,
Yeah.
possibly Atlanta.
Bro, they might even. bro, they might even lose to Carolina,
It's very possible.
depending on
Right
quarterback
now, I think,
play.
yeah, I mean, right now, I think that Miami is a better team than Carolina, right? Carolina has to go out and prove that they're the better team. I think Miami is
Mm.
the better team right now. So I'm gonna give the edge to Miami, but they'll probably beat New Orleans. I'm looking at this, man. I mean, New Orleans might be the last win,
Yeah, because
genuinely, especially if they end up trading Tyreek Hill.
that Jets game is going to be tough. It's going to be
It's
tough for you to win that game.
it's too cold weather.
Even though I'm not high on the Jets this year, it yeah that and then I think Glenn Davis he's really going to inherit that Dan Campbell kind of mindset of
Yeah,
like we're gonna be as tough as physically possible,
yeah,
and you're going to have to win with not with finesse like Daniels has shown in the past. Like you're gonna have to win with heart
yeah,
in that situation.
yeah.
So
No, I mean I agree. I mean I really don't see them beating New York, Pittsburgh, or New England on the road. I don't see them beating
oh
Cincinnati. Period.
that Cincy game might be probably their worst on this
Yeah,
back end.
yeah,
It's at it's at 7:30 at night in Cincy.
yeah.
And you know it's gonna be cold. It's in December, dog.
It's in December. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That they don't win cold weather games. So all these road games at the end of the year, like you can almost guarantee that's going to be a loss. Now, because I'm a Steelers fan, they're actually going to go up there and beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh because I said that, right? But I mean, I just don't see it. I think this is going to be a rude awakening for Miami, dude. I'm so serious. I think that they're not going to be as good as advertised, and Tyreek Hill's going to want out. He's already kind of wanted out. I think the beginning of the year is
And
going to determine.
that and
It's
I
gonna
think
be,
their head coach is gonna be on probably the hottest seat imaginable
yeah,
if they don't come out winning.
yeah. I mean, 5 or 6 because they are talented, right? Um, I mean, it's hard to win only 5 or 6 games whenever you have Tyreek Hill. You should win more, but you also got to remember that Tyreek Hill's a little bit older now. I'm pretty sure he's coming off the injuries. What happens if Tua gets hurt? Is Quinn
So
Ewers going to be that guy? Probably not.
and he also has an injury history also.
Yeah, man, I just don't see it for Dolphins fans, and I got nothing against the Dolphins, man. So I apologize if actually I don't apologize for nothing I'm saying, but if it hurts your feelings, it is what it is. It's football. Yeah,
Got the
dude.
Jets.
Yeah, the Jets are gonna be next. So the Jets, I'm a little bit higher on this year. I think the Jets
Okay,
are
this
going to
is
be a good team. Whether or not their record shows they're a good team, that's to be determined. But I think they're going to be a good team. Does that make sense?
yeah. Well, it's gonna be interesting because on defense, I know what they're gonna bring defensively.
Right.
Um, it's the offense.
Mm-hmm.
How are they going to scheme up on offense, especially with your quarterback? And I'm not saying Justin Fields is not a bad quarterback, but we really haven't seen him
Right.
a full season on a team and what he does stats wise.
Right.
How he goes about throwing and dotting people up in the National Football League. I don't think he hasn't really necessarily have like a real like chance to really like show that he could possibly be that guy. I mean, Pittsburgh for a minute he was, but they wanted to get Russ. And then who did he get drafted to, or did he get drafted to y'all? Who did he get
Got
drafted to?
drafted to Chicago.
Oh yeah, he got drafted to Chicago, and that. that was even a really good spot. That was before, you know, OC of Detroit got there,
Yeah.
and I mean, we all know the history Chicago has in
Right.
their organization. So
Right.
it's going to be really interesting seeing
He
Justin
hasn't.
Fields getting a full year of being
Yeah.
a quarterback that won, actually backs him up.
Yeah. I agree with you. I don't think Justin Fields has had. I won't say he hasn't had the opportunities, right? But whether or not you want to say fair opportunities, you know, you get drafted by Chicago, and like you were saying, it's you know what you get when you go to Chicago, right? At least previously, maybe Ben Johnson can change that. That's yet to be seen. But prior, you knew what you were getting from Chicago. They haven't had a good quarterback ever, right? I mean, their best quarterback has been in 85.
Mm.
You can say their second best quarterback, other than Jay Cutler, has been Rex Grossman. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
no, no, no.
it's not just a recent history. I mean, it's a long proven track record that Chicago just can't develop quarterbacks like that.
Oh yeah,
Now
absolutely.
he goes to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh was a different situation. He was actually brought in to be the backup. But because Russ had an injury, he started the first 6 games. Personally, I thought he did well. Now there are things that he needed to work on, which is ball security. He fumbles too damn much. But I mean, we'll see. Look, the Jets, they've been working on their offensive line for years. And so, like, I think the key for the Jets is going to be, can their offensive line gel? Is this the year that you're going to see them gel and finally gel? And I think if that's the case, then they're going to be a good team, you know?
Now, schedule wise, I think they might be cooked too.
Hmm. Yeah.
They Can you scroll up just a little bit? Or no, wait, that's on my end. Never mind. So you got Pittsburgh starting off,
Hmm.
then Buffalo, then Tampa Bay, then Miami, then you play against Dallas. The
And
first
then
five
Denver.
games is wild.
And then Denver. Denver made the playoffs last year.
Yes. Then you got Carolina, okay,
And then you're
but
at
then you get
Cincinnati.
Cincy, Cleveland off the bye, then New England, then Baltimore, then you got Atlanta,
Yeah.
then you got Miami,
That's
then you got Jacksonville, then New
New
Orleans.
Orleans, New England, and Buffalo. I think past the Baltimore game, their schedule lightens up. So I think you'll probably see a solid 3 or 4 wins past Baltimore.
Bro, but they get their teeth kicked in. They're about to
Yeah.
get their teeth kicked in.
Yeah. So I mean, I see them being a 6 or 7 win team. And that's 4 wins coming after November 23rd.
But like we talked about or like we discussed, it all dictates of what they give offensively to Justin Fields. If they're not scheming it up, then they might they might be with Miami, depending on the scheme and how Glenn wants to run it up on offense. Because bro, this could be a slippery slope here.
Yeah.
Because I think, like we said with Miami, this could be as volatile as Miami.
I mean, it very well could be. Um, I I think the difference between New York and Miami, and I'm just talking like schedule wins or stuff like that, not necessarily like locker rooms or coaching or talent wise, but just based off of schedule and how I think the season's going to work for them. I think Miami's going to have a hotter start and a cold finish, whereas I think
Mm-hmm.
the Jets are going to have a cold start and a hotter finish. So you're really talking about when, at least in my opinion, when is this hot start gonna happen? I mean, for me, it starts November
Hmm.
30th. And honestly, I could see them winning 4 games in a row and then losing the last two, maybe even 5 games in a row and
Yeah,
then losing to Buffalo. Maybe they beat Buffalo
that's a
because
really
Buffalo already clinched their, their playoff ticket. You
it's a
know,
real possibility.
they could win 6 games in a row. They probably won't, but yeah, I mean, I see them being a 7-win team around there,
Hmm.
which is good for the
Yeah,
Jets.
yeah, yeah. I see around 6 or 7, but it will probably be mostly off the back end.
100%,
I mean,
100%.
you'll probably squeeze out one,
Yeah,
maybe two in the before the
if
bye.
if you're New York, you should, as of this moment right now, you should be able to beat Carolina, right? Pittsburgh,
You might get a win out of Pittsburgh.
you maybe get a win out of Pittsburgh. If Mason Rudolph is the Steelers starter week one, then the Jets have a legitimate shot at beating the Steelers. And then either Tampa Bay or Miami, right? So we're talking 2 to 3 wins in the front half of the schedule, and then four
Yeah.
wins back half schedule. Puts them right at 7 wins. And in third place in the division because we're about to talk about the second place team, which is your New England Patriots. And we look at the Patriots,
Yes.
and I mean, you've already seen this. I'm looking at this for the first time, and I don't. I think you guys have the easiest schedule out of all of them. Vegas should be a dub.
Because all you
Carolina,
have to do is stop Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And for Ashton Genty's first game, you really don't know if he's going to be, you know, spectacular, right?
Yeah.
It's the NFL. It's so different from college football, right?
I I
So
think our toughest one for us before the bye would probably be y'all,
Buffalo,
Buffalo, and maybe
Cincinnati.
Cincy, depending on which Cincy you get.
Well, yeah. I don't know if you guys are good enough to keep up with Cincinnati offensively, but
I mean, maybe depending on what scheme that Mike wants to scheme up that week.
yeah, I
But
mean, we'll see.
we're also talking about Joe's health too,
Okay,
because
so assuming he's healthy,
even
I don't
though
think you
Joe
guys.
had yes, assuming he's healthy, then it's most likely we're gonna lose.
Mhm.
Let me be completely honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys beat the Raiders. I don't know you guys' history with Miami, but I could see Miami winning that game. Pittsburgh, in my record prediction, I had the Steelers winning. However, I will concede that the Patriots own the Steelers and the Patriots own Mike Tomlin. So I mean, it's so realistic that the Patriots beat the Steelers. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. You guys should beat Carolina. You guys should beat New Orleans. You guys should beat Tennessee. You guys should beat Atlanta. Honestly, you guys should beat Cleveland. I think you guys split with the Jets. I think you guys beat the other new or the Giants. I mean, shoot, man. And I think you guys beat Miami at the end of the season. I think you guys have the easiest out of them. Now, it's the NFL. So I don't think you guys win every game that you guys supposed to win, but I think a solid 10 wins if Drake
I was
May
thinking the exact
continues
same thing.
yeah, if Drake May continues his leap and he takes a significant jump from year one to year two, 9, 10 wins is what I'm thinking you guys hit. You guys had a spectacular draft, but my thing with you guys is going to be the receiver position.
I understand that. I think it's a lot different from last year because of our offensive coordinator and Josh Daniels. He's back, and I think that's really going to hone in on offensively. And with the addition of Stephon Diggs and the scheme that Josh schemes up, I don't think necessarily Stephon is going to be getting, 70, 80, catches or touches like in a season. I think it'll
Yeah,
be a little bit less because the ball will be spread out to so many other people. I mean, those kind of schemes that we've been running for, before, the Mac Jones and Gerard Mayo era.
yeah,
Um, it was heavy, get guys in space, get the ball out, let 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 them create. Um, it's more of the scheme rather than the players. And I think that would be really good for Stefan and his health and how he juggles the wear and tear going into his later on stage of his career. And I think it'll be good for all the other wide receivers. Now, Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, hopefully they take a step. I don't think it will be the biggest step. I think I'm really high on Mike Williams and Trayvon Henderson than our last year's skilled position players. But I think last year I'm gonna give them a pass. There was a lot going on. Obviously, our head coach wasn't ready. Now we actually have an adult in the room and people to hold them accountable. Now it's on them at this point of them taking that next step, of them working hard, getting to that next level. I don't think they take a big leap, but being key contributors, that's what they can do. And
yeah.
that's why I see with this wide receiver group. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because we got the wide receiver from Buffalo, Stephon, Mike Williams, Keyshawn Booty, Jalen Polk, Javon Baker. That's our wide receiver room. And then we got Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper. That skill we can legit say we don't have the worst wide receiver or skill position room in the NFL anymore.
No,
I
it's
think it's
us.
safe to say that.
No, it's the Steelers. It's the Steelers with the worst receiver in the NFL. You're 100% right.
But like with the Jets, I think like I said before, it all depends on offensive play because I think the defense is going to bring it, but offensively, we got to see how Drake May makes that leap like you said and see how these skill position players how they act or how they react to this and the scheme and how Stephon reacts to this scheme, even though a lot of people say he's a diva and he's high maintenance, this, that, and the third. We're about to see in this later on, I guess you can say the tail end of his, prime. Let's see how he acts of not necessarily getting the numbers that he used to, but contributing to winning football.
Yeah,
Let's see how he acts. And I think Mike Vrabel can handle. I'm not saying that Stephon Diggs needs to be handled like he's a damn baby,
right.
but let's see how Stephon is when we're winning, but his stats are really not there.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
And
I don't think we really had that before. I mean, you could say Buffalo and you can say the Texans, but I think those situations were different because the expectations were high.
yeah, I think with Buffalo, especially towards the end of it, because he wasn't winning, he was getting mad. With Houston, I think he knew that he was going to be in a little bit of a lesser role, but then he also got hurt. So obviously that kind of
Mhm.
played a part of it. I'm hoping that, and kind of what you were saying, I'm hoping that he's able to mature a little bit, knowing that that his role isn't going to be the same as what it was in Buffalo. He might still be a top 30 receiver, right? A top 35 receiver,
Mhm.
maybe even better than that. But you got to understand that, especially going to New England, you're going to a team that likes to run the ball,
Yeah,
right? And so
yeah,
you kind of
absolutely.
have to have those kind of expectations that maybe your targets aren't going to be as much as they was in Buffalo. You don't have Josh Allen throwing you the ball. As much as Drake May impressed last year, he's not Josh Allen. He's not even close to Josh Allen right now, right?
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
and to be honest, he's not even CJ Stroud. And he wasn't Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, right? I mean, you can make a legitimate argument, and I mean this no shade, no disrespect to you or the Patriots, but Drake May is the worst quarterback that Stephon Diggs has played with, starting wise, right? Obviously, he played
Yeah.
with backups and shit like that, but starting
But I
wise,
think,
so
but I think when you said that comparison with QBs, I think it was those are different scenarios because in Minnesota, that team was bare minimum should go to a championship playoff run every year.
all of
When
them,
you look at those rosters, they should
yeah,
have been
they
at
should have beat the
least
Saints.
yes,
They did beat the Saints. Right?
yes,
Yeah,
they
it was
did.
Stephon
Yeah,
Diggs. Yeah, it was Stephon Diggs that did that.
yeah,
Yeah, they beat the Saints, so they went to the NFC Championship with the
yes,
Vikings. And then he goes to Buffalo,
yes,
went to an AFC Championship with the Vikings or with the Bills.
yes,
You go
yes,
to Houston, and Houston's coming off a season where they surprise everybody, and there's expectations are through the roof, right? You go to a situation like New England, and you're like, okay, like, look, New England hasn't been good as of late, right? They're a running football team versus the other three organizations you were just at. They're a throwing football team. And I have to understand that one, I'm coming off a big injury. So even though like he may think that he's 100% healthy, people don't look at him the same, right?
yeah,
And two, the expectation isn't that New England's going to the AFC Championship. The expectation, at
yeah,
least in my eyes, is that New England might be good enough to squeak into the playoffs,
yeah,
right? 9, 10 wins, good enough to squeak into the playoffs. That's the same with the Steelers. 9, 10 wins, good enough to
yeah,
squeak into the playoffs, right? And then when you get to the playoffs, not even win a playoff game, right? So
yeah,
you kind of have to understand the situation that you're at, and I'm
yeah,
hopeful that he's matured enough, especially because he's on the wrong side of 30. He's towards the back,
mm,
half of his career, that he's able to understand that
mm.
it's not about him.
Well, I think in those situations also, I think Stefan was blessed to be in situations where people in the organization actually cared about winning. In Minnesota, obviously, Texans, getting CJ Stroud and then getting, Anderson, trading up to get Anderson.
Yeah.
Um,
You go out and you go
People
get Joe
taking risks.
Mixon in free agency.
Yeah, in Buffalo, I mean, do I really need to talk about Buffalo? Like
Right.
I think part of the reason that Stefan signed with us is because he believed in the Mike Vrabel way, which we talked, off of off of here that Mike Vrabel went to an AFC championship with the Tennessee Titans with a quarterback that
Ye-
was even a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, but they had
Like
Derrick
let's
Henry.
let's really think about that here.
Yes, but they had Derrick Henry. And no, they would not have made the AFC Championship if they did not have Derrick Henry.
Oh no, absolutely.
You know what
And
I mean?
Derrick Henry is a is a different breed. I, I'm not
Right.
I'm not I'm not I'm not slighting him, but in order for you to even get to an AFC championship, you have to have a level of competency out of your
100%.
quarterback and quarterback
100%.
play. And the
He's
fact
great
that
on
he
calling
went,
defenses, and he's always had a good offensive line.
and how do you like who was their quarterback?
It was Tannehill, Ryan
It
Tannehill.
was Tannehill.
Uh-huh.
Oh my god.
It was Ryan Tannehill.
I mean, the fact that you squeezed some kind of juice out of Ryan Tannehill
Yeah.
needs to
I
be
mean,
studied.
you know what's crazy too is that I'm pretty sure Ryan Tannehill had some MVP votes that year. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so, I mean,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
you're
because I
100%
think
right.
he put up career highs.
Mm-hmm.
That was with AJ too. AJ was on that team.
So you have to, keep it in perspective, right? Like without Derrick Henry, no, they weren't going to make it to the AFC Championship game. But you're 100% right in saying that Mike Vrabel was a key factor and to bringing out the best out of Ryan Tannehill. So was Arthur Smith. So
No,
I think at the end of the day, I'm going to stick with 9 or 10 wins. I think that's going to be good enough to go into the playoffs this year, finishing second in the East.
yeah,
Well,
I believe that too. I think it's going to be a good 9 to 10 wins,
mhm,
rather than a bad 9 to 10 wins. And when I say that, I mean, there's some teams out there that get 9 to 10 wins, and it's like, uh, you still have questions, right?
yeah, yeah,
Rather than there's some 9 to 10 win teams where you're like, oh, like they're going somewhere.
yep,
Like this is a team to watch out for in the
agreed,
future. Not right
agreed.
now, but in the future.
Yep,
Um,
depends how you finish.
I'm yeah, it obviously, um, we don't know the future, but I think obviously I'm gonna be a little biased, but I think New England and some other teams that we're gonna talk about in a future video, um, they can have some good quote unquote losing seasons. They can have quote unquote good losing seasons.
Mhm.
That will have a good effect in the long
In the
run.
future. Yeah, it's like a ripple effect.
Yes.
Agreed with you. Well, I'll go ahead and I'll put, what we think, the AFC East is going to turn into it this year. I think it's pretty clear that Buffalo's going to win the division, 12, 13 wins. New England comes in second, 9, 10 wins. New York is third, about 7 wins, 6, 7 wins. And then
Yeah.
Miami's last, about 4 or 5 wins, maybe 6 wins.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll put that at the end of the video, so people can see our final prediction for our final official prediction. Look, man, we're official here. I want to look at the line totals for the AFC East. So they got the Buffalo Bills. When they have the over under at 12 and a half. What do you think? I'm going over.
Going under.
You're going under? Okay. Then have the Miami Dolphins. Over under 7.5. I'm going under.
Going under.
New England Patriots. Over 7.5. I'm going over.
Oh, definitely over.
Okay. And then last but not least, they got the Jets over under 5.5. I'm going with the over.
I'm going with the over.
Cool, man. Well, I guess we can wrap this thing up. Anything you like to say before we do?
No. Hope everyone enjoyed this video, and just hit that like and subscribe, and notification bell to get
Okay.
notified when we upload a new video.
Yep, yep. And share the video.
Oh
Put
yeah,
down in the
absolutely.
comments if you agreed, if you disagreed, if you like the video, if you dislike the video. It's not gonna hurt our feelings. Just go ahead and say it.
Yeah.
Put it right there in the comments. And it's all what we've been telling you to do. It's all completely free. no charge. It doesn't hurt you, but it does help us. So it's greatly appreciated. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and end this thing. It's been real, guys, and we will see you guys next time with the AFC North edition. All right, peace.
Peace.